Hi, my name is Faith and I am a Survivor faithful. I have been watching Survivor since season 1. I have been a longtime fan, and as we know, there has been some huge news for Survivor 50, the long-awaited season. I am so excited for this season. I'm excited for season 48 that's coming out this Wednesday, but I think we're all in agreement that season 50 is just gonna be arguably one of the best seasons, I hope, that we've ever seen. So, if you haven't heard, there has been some huge breaking news about season 50, so I'm going to play that video and react and kind of let you know my thoughts with what has been announced.
Breaking news, Survivor fans, season 50 is in your hands. That's right, you heard me. We are turning the game over to you. Throughout the airing of season 48, we're going to be opening votes for you to determine key elements that will shape season 50 for our returning players before they even get out to Fiji. So if you want to know when these votes will drop, you got to be watching season 48. The good news is it's a very good season.
Okay, I loved how straight to the point that was. I'm excited that they're implementing this into season 48 because they know the fans are going to be watching this current season. So, right off the bat, I'm going to be honest, when I watched this, my first thought was, I hope they let us pick the people that are going to be on season 50. I don't think that's going to be the case. I had read through some of the comments and I was like, he talks about key elements. So obviously I think it's leaning more towards like aspects of the game as opposed to people who are going to be playing. I had heard they had narrowed it down, so already cutting people out to 100 people, which is just insane to think about. Obviously we're wondering if it's going to be a mix of old school and new school or if it's just going to be new school. I really want to see a mix of old and new, but I'll just have to make another video about that. Let's talk about the key elements that I want to see in Survivor Season 50. I think the number one thing that I want, and I think a lot of people would agree on this, I want the live reunion back so bad. I will say that I do like some of the elements of the way that they do it now, and I do agree with Jeff that it is nice to get the raw emotion right after the final tribal council. And you can kind of, everything's fresh in everybody's memories and they can talk about it. But I think when you have a returning player season, you want to see the people that got voted off before the merge. And I'm going to want to see all of the members of the tribe. And I think that's the biggest thing that you miss with the live reunion is not getting to see all of the players. Honestly, thinking about this next one, I would almost put this above the live reunion. And that is bring back some of the challenges from the past. There are so many iconic challenges that when I go back and watch previous seasons, I just don't understand why they ever got rid of it. Like, they're so iconic, there's so many of them. Some of my favorites, just to list off, I'm gonna butcher the names completely. I'm sure they have names and called something. I'm gonna do the Faith version, the pole challenge. That challenge will always make me think of Parvati and the way that she literally was holding on to it and just her entire side was hanging off. I'll have to insert the picture because if you know, you know. But there's just challenges like that. And I know that they've done that. I'm pretty sure they have done that challenge in the new era. But there's just challenges that are similar to that I would love to see them implement. There's also ones where they all had to, like, Jeff would ask them questions and they had to write down the person that they thought that applied to. Like, who's the chattiest at camp? And they all had to write down. If they all wrote the same answer, if they all had the right one, then they got to chop the block. And so there's just things like that it was so messy. I also loved when they were doing a challenge and Jeff would bring out food mid-challenge to try and tempt them to quit. It's just the little things about that in the game of Survivor that just makes it so interesting and it makes it so fun to watch. And then last one that I can really think of, and this one might be an unpopular opinion, I don't know, I kind of enjoyed watching the gross food challenges, like when they had to eat whole tarantulas. Like, that's the type of stuff that I watch it and I'm like, I could literally never do Survivor. Like, there's no way I could eat an entire tarantula. Like, that's insane. There's really not much to this one. I think this is another one that I've kind of seen people thrown out. 2 tribes. I think simplify it. I think there's no need for 3 tribes. Tribe A, tribe B. Plain as that. Along the same lines, I know that they've kind of done different numbers of tribe members, like 18, 20, they even did 22 back in Exile Island. I think if they're gonna bring back so many iconic players, I wanna see more. I wanna see it go up to 24. And I know that might be unrealistic, but I would just love to see, the more people the better, honestly. Something we have not seen in the new era, loved ones visits. I feel like that has just been randomly taken out here and there, and I know it had to be taken out during COVID, and that made sense, and I understood why they made that decision, but I feel like we're at the point now where it can be implemented again. And it was just so touching. I feel like it made that part of Survivor so real, and I think I pretty much cried at every loved one's visits that's ever been shown. But they're just so sweet. It's such a good personal touch to the game, and I would love to see that brought back. This is something that we have seen come back in recent seasons, because I think Jeff Probst has seen all of us begging for this, and it's the auction. It is probably one of my favorite pieces of Survivor. I am so glad they brought that back. 2 things that I was so thankful that they brought back that they took away with the new era was like the intro, which is the clip of like showing everybody's faces with their names. It's just, again, the small things that make it so good. I'm so glad they brought that back, and I'm so glad that they brought back the auction. To finish it off, I want to talk about some comments that I have seen people complain about that I disagree with. Some things that I don't mind that they continue in the new era onto season 50, and I have seen so many people complain about no beware advantages, no shot in the dark, just going back to the basics. I agree in a sense about going back to the basics. I like the idea of 2 tribes and keeping it simple in that way, but I have to be honest, I think the extra pieces of like idols and advantages, that's what makes the new era good, in my opinion. And I think if you go back to old school Survivor, the first like 1 through 15 or 1 through 20 seasons, there was no idols. And then like 20 through 30 is when the idols got implemented, and when they did returning seasons like Heroes versus Villains, to me what made it so iconic is Heroes versus Villains was honestly considered new era versus old era, and it was pre-idols, post-idols, and seeing the 2 players interact with each other, like for example a Russell Hantz, who was the king of idols, found them without clues, and then you had the Boston Rob, who had never played a season with idols before, and seeing them compete with each other is what made it so iconic to me. And I think I would love to see that now if they brought back somebody from an old era who's used to idols but isn't used to the beware advantage or the shot in the dark versus somebody who is. I think it will just add an extra layer, and I would love to see that implemented and have those people play against each other to see who outlasts. Another huge complaint that I see all the time is people are done with Fiji. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't mind it. I think it is fun to go back to previous seasons and see like when they went to China or Australia, and going back and watching that is fun. I don't think it's what makes the game good. I think they could honestly shoot it wherever, and it's really about the people that makes a season. The last thing I have not been able to form a true opinion about. Do we go back to 37 days? Do we go back to the old length where they had to be there for over a month? I do think I would be interested to see it. I do think watching it now, a lot of people complain that they feel like it's too rushed. I don't feel that way with the shorter days. I don't know. I would be really curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. I think I would be fine either way. I think they both have their pros and cons to each one and which one's better. I think I like them for both ways. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what key elements you want to see in Survivor Season 50. Let me know the things that you don't want to see. And yeah, stay tuned. We will watch Season 48 together. I'll continue to kind of put some of my reactions out there, my thoughts on the season, so stay tuned.